Hi, everyone. You are watching the Self Connection with Ginny Brown and Kelly Pietro, where we have conversations with a group of ascended masters known as the multitude of the greater good.
Kelly kindly asks all the questions and the multitude answers. I channel their answers, and they are a group of, let's say, higher level beings, if you want to put them on a scale of anything, but they are ascended masters and high energy beings who, of course, ascended masters have lived life on Earth and have Earth experience as well as being in connection in spirit. So they are the ones who answer Kelly's questions through me. I channel what they send the energy. I change it into English from the energetic level, and it comes out as words. The other part that's important to know is it doesn't come into my mind and then out through my mouth. The energy comes in and right out through my mouth. So it doesn't go into my mind and get changed. It just goes to the mind self in as much as it needs a word. So I hope that makes it more clear. Anyway, thank you, Kelly, for asking the questions, and that's who I am channeling.
Thanks, Ginny. That was a great explanation, and also um, just watching you channel, you can tell it comes so fast that there's really no time for you to get in the way.
Exactly. Yeah, to process it in my mind first. Yeah, no, that doesn't work.
And I know oftentimes when we're done, you're like, I don't remember
Yeah.
what they said.
Maybe for 2 minutes or 5 minutes max, I will remember something, but that's it.
Yeah, which is great that we're recording it because then you can listen to it later and
Yeah.
benefit. I know you benefit from it. I benefit from it. It's usually their answers are for all to benefit. So,
Right. Right.
so today we're going to talk more about energy. Ginny and I were having a small conversation before we started. Well, we had a big conversation, but about this section of what we're going to talk about was small. We're both kind of like trying to make sense of this and, oh, well, let's maybe make the episode about this today. And so we were talking about layers of the aura, the astral plane, the Akashic records, um, dimensions of being, planes of existence versus dimensions. And so I think this is the topic we're going to cover today. We'll see. I'm not formulating a question yet, but I guess to begin, we can just ask, knowing that those are the topics we're going to cover, does the multitude have an opening, I don't want to say statement, that's weird, an opening message? We're not on trial here. An opening message about these topics.
It is important to understand, my dear, those are all very good and wonderful topics. However, one has nothing to do with the other. When it is that one comes to the earth plane, one is in physical form, and it is the physical form that one is concerned about being. In our estimation, there are many levels of being, many dimensions, many like states of self. However, when one is on the physical plane, one allows oneself to be in the physical dimension of being. There is nothing more we can tell you about that. However, in our estimation, it is important that you understand that when one does come to the earth plane, one allows oneself to experience, one allows oneself to allow, one allows oneself to accept oneself as who they are or not. In our estimation, it is important that each one understand that there is that part of oneself on the earth plane, and there is a greater part of oneself in spirit. And when one is able to connect with oneself in spirit and allow oneself to access all the information that has been accrued over many lifetimes, one is able to allow oneself to move forward differently. We would highly recommend that each one not worry so much about where they are within their growth process, whenever it is that they can allow themselves to access themselves. That is the greater growth process. Do not be concerned, all is love.
So funny, Ginny. Didn't I say, like, as I was taking these notes, I was like, I can already tell they're gonna say it doesn't matter.
Say that.
Okay, thank you for that. And I know it doesn't matter, but because these are topics that are explored heavily on the earth plane, I'm still gonna ask questions about it. It's not to disregard the multitude, but it's to bring clarity for those who are exploring these topics.
Okay.
So one example is where people will, where did my little diagram go? People will talk about layers of the aura. And you'll see diagrams that talk about the etheric body, the emotional body, the mental body, the astral plane, the oversoul. Are these layers, do these layers actually exist in, like, is it true that they exist for everyone and that we can work with those layers for different types of healing?
It is important to understand that each one on the earth plane has many, many layers of being. However, not very many energetic layers. And as it is that you are expressing interest in the energetic layers, we can tell you it does not matter which layer one works upon. It is in process of being who one is. And when one is in process of being who one is and allowing oneself to connect with that super self, so to speak, in spirit, that is where the healing occurs. That is where the growth occurs. And when one is in connection with one on the earth plane, one is able to allow oneself to experience the growth process differently than when one disregards the super self. In our estimation, it does not matter what one calls each, it's like each section of being. What matters is that each one knows that the connection of self is the most important part of the growth process. In our estimation, when one allows oneself to be on the earth plane, one is very much in tune with oneself in spirit. However, the earth mind is not always in tune with oneself and spirit. Therefore, one cannot open up to the gifts contained in their spiritual self. We can tell you when time progresses, one is able to shed some of the inhibitions of being and allow oneself to expand oneself in the only way one can, in connection with self. Do not be concerned, all is love.
Okay, so then would it be true then to say that thinking about the spiritual self in this layered manner can then limit um, the healing we might have access to?
It is important to understand that as one thinks of oneself in the layered manner, it is a mental process of being and has very little to do with the actual spiritual process of being and healing and knowing and loving and caring. In our estimation, one can believe whatever it is that one wants as long as one allows oneself to open to oneself. In our estimation, it is not a matter of what one knows on the mind self. It is a matter of what one feels and heals in the heart self. It is the heart self that allows one to move forward. Do not be concerned.
Okay, so I'm going to use the experience we just had as an example. So before Ginny and I hit record, I was sharing how I can feel this headache coming on again. And she said, well, did you go to the astral plane to heal it? And I said, well, I thought I was, but I can feel right now that I wasn't. And she walked me through, we'll go there and see if there's, and I felt a change by, in my mind, I was going to an even higher place of being to heal, the energy around this headache. So I guess that's what I meant by like, well, maybe I was limiting what I had access to because of my belief system of, well, I need to go here, but really there's this much more to access, or there's more out there than my mind was kind of limiting my thinking.
Right.
So, but then I just heard them say, like, it doesn't matter what you think, it's how much you open up to yourself. But I also know that sometimes what you think limits what you open yourself up to. So can they clarify, can they bring any sort of clarification around like that experience and so that others can hear like the clarification?
It is important to understand that when one allows oneself to access oneself, one can put any label on it that one wishes. However, we can tell you when one allows one's energy to expand in such a way, one allows the all that is to step in. And when the all that is to steps in, one allows the all that is to help in the healing process. In our estimation, it is not a matter of levels. It is not a matter of planes. It is a matter of allowing oneself to connect with oneself. It may be a way of, it's like if I go to the astral plane, it's a way of allowing myself to give my mind something to do while I'm doing the healing, basically.
Yeah. Okay.
It's a way of me allowing me to connect with the all that is and all that I need and myself. In our estimation, my dear, it is a matter of understanding that one is getting two or three things at the same time, and it gets confusing.
Okay.
When one is in the process of allowing oneself the ability to heal oneself, one allows the all that is to step in as well. And when the all that is steps in, there is that part of the oneself that is contained within the all that is, as well as the super self. It is basically that part of self that says, I have lived this, I have experienced this, and now I am allowing the healing to be. Therefore, the healing is. When one considers that oneself on the earth plane can reach spiritually or connectedly into the astral plane, it is a matter of allowing one's energetic self to allow the expansion required in order to receive the healing. It is the expansion of self, the heart self, the energetic self that allows the connection with self and spirit. Do not be concerned. When one is able to allow that connection of self on the physical with that self in the spiritual, one is able to allow many things, many types of healing, many types of closure, many types of being differently. Do not be concerned, all is love.
Okay, well, so my question, and I'm gonna do an explanation for the audience. Like, is there such thing as opening up too much? And the reason I asked that is, Ginny, if you remember, as you were walking me through this healing experience of, well, go to the astral level, which was, I guess, really another way of saying open up to more healing, right? And at one point I opened up and I said, oh my gosh, this feels like too much. It feels very ungrounding. And then I kind of like shut it down a little because it felt like too much. I felt like I was kind of like going out of body. So that's where this question of, is there such thing as opening up too much to where, okay, I understand that, like, if I say to a detriment, that's a very humanistic judgment of the experience. And they're going to say there's no good or bad, right? But on a human level, is there such thing as opening up too much to one's own detriment to receive healing?
It's important to understand that there is always the opportunity to open up to however much one is able to open up to. If one chooses, one can connect directly with one spiritual self without any lightheadedness or physical energetic issues. In our estimation, however, one can allow oneself to go where only as far as one believes one can go. If one believes, one can go wholeheartedly to the connection of self with self, one can do so. If one believes, oh, this is too high, I am going too high, there are too many levels in here that I need to reach before I can get to myself, then one will give oneself a response to a level, whatever it is that one believes is, quote, too high.
Well, it's funny because I didn't feel like, maybe it was my own judgment of that lightheadedness that was like, oh, that was too high. Well, what was that though?
It is important to understand that when one allows oneself to experience an energetic opening or retrieval of self, that sometimes one believes it is a problem or an issue when it is not. Therefore, it is important to understand that if it is that one chooses to experience it in one way or another, one will allow oneself to experience a physical response. In our estimation, however, you are quite open to healing and caring of self. However, when one, it has to do with outside influences, you might say, what someone else's belief processes were, what their ideas and experiences were, that like we would read about or stories we would hear about, and then we would consider that to be the top of the line, you know. But we, in our own efficiencies, can go higher than that. And when higher on an energetic level. And if we can do that, and we've learned, well, we can only go so high, but we break through that barrier, it can cause a physical reaction when one is not necessarily required. Do not be concerned.
That's interesting. Yeah. Cause I think, and I almost like, I'm hesitant to share it here again for fear of judgment, but I think what I said to you was like, I feel like I went to the God level of like, it was so overwhelming and overpowering that I like shut it down. And to hear them say like, well, you just broke through like the limits of your belief of what you think is out there. And
Yeah.
that's why it felt so overwhelming and overpowering and ungrounding. I felt so dizzy. And so, okay, so that was me, I guess reaching beyond the bounds of my mental belief of what's out there.
Yeah, the only thing I can say is that when I was like opening up and expanding myself on the earth plane, I would just ask if this was a good book for me to read or if that was a good book for me to read. And I'd always get no. And what they had said was, you need to learn more about who you are, what your beliefs are, and what it is that you know before you learn about another's beliefs. And what I can see is people who are looking and looking and looking, and you know, it's fine, you need to do that. However, when you read this book and that book and learn about this person's idea and that person's idea, you limit yourself from knowing what you know and achieving your own goal of connecting yourself with yourself. So all of these other things, these other ideas are good, but you need to know who you are and what's right for you.
Yeah, I can remember. Go ahead.
I was going to say, without setting those limits of what somebody else believes.
Yeah, and I guess like, as a spiritual seeker or a seeker of knowledge around energy and how it works, um, I'm always looking for answers and understanding and define this, multitude, tell me how this works. And they almost don't interfere. It's not very satisfying to the egoic mind that wants to know, because it's like we get high on knowing. We are just talking about this too off camera, like, oh, I know this thing, so it like pushes up our self-importance. But like knowledge can also then limit, right? If you believe you only have these layers and, well, your belief might be limiting what you have access to. Um, or, I mean, we all innately have access to the all that is. It's just our beliefs can keep us from accessing that, I guess. Wait, there's something else I was gonna say. Oh, I remember in my mode of spiritual seeking and, learning from other people. And again, I was like that seeking of knowledge. Um, Anytime I would hear like a rule or like this is how it is, like you have to do it this way because if you don't, this will happen. And or this is how it works when it comes to energy. Anytime that would come up for me, my whole body would just reject it. And it felt like judgment. Like that's how it felt in my body. Like I was judging another person, like, what the hell do they know? Like that's how it would like show up for me. And then I'd have to like push the judgment aside and say, like, oh, okay, this just isn't true. And this is how my body is responding to a mistruth that like there's no rules around it, because as soon as you put a rule, you put a limit. And if you put a limit, then you're no longer this limitless, we are limitless being, but like you're not allowing yourself to be the limitless being that you are. So
Yeah.
I think that's why I love doing this, Ginny, because there's a lot of like debunking that happens. I kind of love the debunking because it's freeing.
Lots of times what I'll do is, because you picture your aura and then and if you give it limitations like this level and this part, well, okay, so what I will do is lots of times is I will say, I will picture in my mind, because I'm very visual, I will just say I am limitless, and I'll just expand my aura to limitlessness. Therefore, it doesn't matter whether it's this level is a mental, this letter is emotional, spiritual, or whatever. I am. My aura, my power, myself is limitless. It's what I choose to do with it and how I choose to allow myself to be on the earth plane, which is not always easy, because then you have earth plane stuff to contend with.
Yeah, so what I can feel coming up as you say that is, and I think I'm feeling it because I once believed this, and so my guess is others might be sensing this too, is the idea of like expanding your aura as far out, like limitless or wherever, however far out, then like I can feel the fear of being affected by other people's energy who comes in contact with your expanded aura, right?
Mhm.
Like I can feel that being like, oh, maybe I stay small so that I don't have to feel other people's stuff. And like, what if expanding my aura makes me feel that? What can the multitude say about what's true about that?
It is important to understand that that is a possibility. However, it is also a possibility that one can say, this is me, this is who I am. And when it is another is being who they are, it has nothing to do with who I am. It is that part of self that says, I am here on the earth plane. I am here to be. I am here to learn. I am here to understand. However, I am me regardless of what another thinks, regardless of what another says, and regardless of what another does. Therefore, if one should allow oneself to expand the energetic self, it's like the aura part, the energetic self of being. It does not matter what another's energetic part of being is. However, when one allows oneself to expand oneself in such a way, the energy that is expended or expanded allows the energy between selves to change. And when one allows oneself to be in a grounded, allowing state of being, that energy will expand itself out. And when one it's like comes across another who allows oneself to be in a negative state of being, one does not have to take on that negativity. One just needs to continue to be who one is. Therefore, the other one will either adjust to the more positive energy or choose to leave altogether from the vicinity of the physical person. It is important to understand each one is in charge of their own being, their own selves, their own energetic sense of being. Therefore, if one says, this is who I am, and this is who I intend to be, to remain, it is important to understand that one sets the boundary by allowing oneself to be who one is, when one is. Do not be concerned, all is love.
I can feel some old religious beliefs creep in of like, when you do that, you let demons in,
Oh, wow.
right? Like I can hear that in like the Christianity belief of things.
Wow.
And so what I just heard the multitude say is like, well, you set your own boundaries. And if you may sense that as you open yourself up, you may sense the discomfort of something dark. But if you're strong enough in your own knowing and your own power that you are in charge of yourself, it will not affect you. Unless, like, I think about like if you feel victimized by it, then that's almost like allowing it to affect you by thinking you're less powerful.
Uh,
Um,
that's again a belief, a
yeah.
mind belief. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, if you believe in that, then you create that experience for yourself through your belief.
Yeah. Yeah. You can. But as you said, you don't have to. As you said, if you don't believe that you're as powerful and you give your power away, basically. To
Yeah.
someone
I think that's a hard one for people just learning and exploring. Like, I know for me, that's what I was worried about was like, because I had that Catholic upbringing of, well, not just Catholic upbringing, but like just whatever else was talked about out
Yeah,
there.
well, I had a Catholic upbringing also. I went to Catholic school and either it didn't affect me in a way or like I didn't pay attention to it, but I don't ever remember hearing a lot of the things people talk about
Jesus and the devil.
yeah, well, there's the devil, but the devil was more of a problem with a physical behavior rather than, a spiritual being. Um, my recollection is basically you have the angels and the saints, and you have Jesus, and you have God, and you have all that spiritual being. So yes, there's the devil, but for me, it wasn't affecting, I don't know how to explain it. It was more open to the spiritual positivity in the church and schools that I went to rather than the negative. Although it was there, it wasn't emphasized, in my opinion, or in my recollection, so
Yeah.
much as the spiritual positivity.
Yeah, I think in broader Christian belief, not just Catholic, but maybe more the evangelical doomsday type stuff, that comes into play a lot more. At least that's been my experience. But yeah, I think there can be a lot of fear of opening yourself up, and you see it too. I mean, I'm seeing so much of it, maybe because of my explorations, like, you know, these people who are giving their testimony around escaping New Age spirituality and coming to Jesus or coming to Christianity. And their testimony is like, I opened myself up and I did this. And, um, and while I can see how actually New Age spirituality can become very disempowering because you're constantly outside of yourself, like connecting outside of yourself for empowerment, whether it's through ritual or through doctrine of New Age spirituality. It's like you have to do this in order to, and then you'll reach this. And it's still like, I don't know, it just feels outside of yourself versus like connecting to yourself, your God of your understanding, um, and not to achieve anything. And a lot of people too are doing it through substance or through plant medicine experiences. And the underlying energy is like, I am disempowered, so I'm trying to find my power and I'm going to do it through these means that other people are leading me to. It's like, no, no, just go. It's an inside job. Go
Always
within.
a job, always, yeah.
Yeah. And then I think maybe when they find Christianity, there's maybe the way they're going about it is they're finding it more internally. I don't know. I think everyone's experience is different, but I guess what I'm trying to say is like, to not paint anything with a good or bad, but to have
Right.
your own personal experience outside of what other people are telling you to do. Just,
Which I think I did growing up because I
yeah,
don't remember all the negative parts.
yeah.
But, um, but you had said it's an inside job, and it's always an inside job, always.
Ginny, we didn't talk about time. Are you looking at the clock?
Yeah, I just have a couple more minutes. But what I wanted to say about it being an inside job, it's also like the fear that I had experienced about opening up and letting people know what I do. It also is based on a lot of past life experiences, which are a part of my super self. And so I'm still feeling those fears because they had never really been addressed or healed.
Yeah.
So, it's that part of myself in the past life experiences that I had that I needed to work through. So that is, yes, an inside job as well, but we can't ignore the feelings. And it's the feelings that help us move forward. And that's where a lot of the inside work and the inside job pertains to the inner self. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, and I think that opening up to the idea that there were past life experiences where uh, your current wounds originated. So, like what you had just walked me through and said, okay, well, go to the astral plane and, just in being intuitively guided to see, oh, yeah, I see where it is there. And then you saying, see if there's a past life. Yeah, I can see this line of women. Right? And then working on that level to bring healing just energetically on that level, just through intention and saying, and tuning into your feeling stuff. Oh, wow, I'm feeling all this sadness. And I remember you said, go to where it originated. So I was working with this woman here, even though I saw the line. So I'm thinking I got to work on each of these women. And you said, go to where it originated. Boom, I went to this little girl. And that's when I felt the sadness. So, to know that you can inquire about your suffering, like in a more expanded way. Most people, it's like, oh, I'm suffering. Let me go to the doctor. Let me get diagnosed. And by the way, this is not medical advice. Let's just
Ever medical advice.
medical advice. Everyone has to go through their own process because the physical body is real and we often need physical assistance.
Yeah.
And I've done that too, and I do it all the time, right? But to also, as like a supportive tool, to also have the expanded consciousness of,
Yeah.
could there be a past life energy at play? Let me explore that. Okay, yeah, now I go all the way to this line and I feel the sadness. Allow myself to feel that sadness so I can release it, right? It's got to come up and out. And then in doing so, I saw that whole line of women
Right.
visually. Like my clairvoyance is showing me the effects of that intentional healing. Does that mean I'll never get a headache again? I don't know. Time will tell. But it's worth exploring all the levels that
Yeah.
we,
Or there might be a little more of that to work on too. But
yeah,
but when we discuss healing and all of those things, it is mostly energetic work. And you do the healing through the energetic system of being, your energetic self,
yeah,
rather than, it doesn't mean don't see a doctor if you need a doctor, because your body is still on the physical level and it needs physical help. But the energetic help makes very much a difference in the physical as well.
yeah. I mean, our bodies are here on the journey. So our
Yeah,
bodies need support. And sometimes just going to a doctor and surrendering, I need help, is an energetic experience of receiving help through their care, through that medication. We can't work all in the spiritual and we can't work all in the physical. It's like um, they complement each other. It's the yin and the yang to do both. So
right.
there's probably so much more we can talk about this, and I'm sure we will in a future episode, but this was really great.
Yeah, time is up for me for today anyhow. So
Thanks for helping me with my headache once again, Ginny,
you're welcome.
and the multitude. Thank you for channeling the responses. And
You're quite welcome.
yeah,
We are most pleased to be able to share our energetic selves with the energetic beings on the earth plane. Therefore, in our estimation, it is quite a compliment to each one who not only listens, but each one who understands that our goal here is to help each one allow each one to be who one is and to allow themselves to grow and understand and be. Therefore, we are most pleased to help and most grateful for the opportunity. Do not be concerned, all is love.
thank you.
So thank you, Kelly, for your questions. Thank you, Multitude, for your answers. And thank you, everyone, for listening to us and watching. And I hope you'll return again. Thank
And
you.
thank you, Ginny, for channeling.
Okay.
We'll see everyone next time on the Self Connection.
All right. I'll be here. Bye.
Bye.